To improve schedule performance, you need objective measures and reasoned tactics. Walt Lipke. Even if you get the numbers, isn't it more important to actually produce useful deliverables? JF, Agilist. I'm Robert Velde. I'm a project manager who has used Earn Schedule on my projects since 2007 and on my Agile projects since 2014. I write an Earn Schedule blog called the Earn Schedule Exchange, and I produce videos for the Earn Schedule Academy. Finally, I'm president of Project Flight Deck, a company that makes and sells software exclusively for Earn Schedule. My webinar today, Act Fast, Think Fast, describes how to implement Earn Schedule on Agile projects. It answers these questions. What is schedule performance? How is it measured? How do you interpret the measurements? How do you use them to improve schedule performance? Where do they fit into Agile practices? What are some common questions and objections to using Earn Schedule on Agile projects? The answers reuse, repurpose, and tweak familiar Agile tactics. But first, let's get clear on the problem that's being solved. Agile practitioners feel caught in a dilemma: act fast or think slow. Agile's highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early delivery. That's from the Agile Manifesto. But on projects, scarce resources and time breed uncertainty and risk. Decision-making must carefully weigh performance on costs and timeline. Without objective measures, cognitive bias and statistical errors creep in. So, how do you combine reasoned tactics and fast pace of delivery? Apply Earn Schedule to Agile projects. It starts with performance, specifically schedule performance. What's that? Schedule performance is efficiency of value delivery. You can think of it like the fuel efficiency of a car. Mileage indicates how far you can travel on a certain amount of fuel. From the mileage, you know if you are where you should be given the fuel that has been burned. Your actual mileage can be above, below, or at the rated capacity of your car. Like fuel efficiency, schedule efficiency tells you whether the volume of delivery meets the plan, and whether that puts you where you should be on the project timeline, or are early or late. The volume of delivery needs a unit of measure. For Agile, points are the units of measure. In the Agile canon, points are purely relative measures, such as t-shirt sizes. But there's a problem with relative measures. Using them is like driving through a town that has posted its speed limit as 25-ish. If you're not worried about time, just drive at 15 and you should be okay. Or if you don't care about money, drive as fast as you want, but be prepared to pay a fine. If time and money matter, you need to know how fast you can go without breaking the limit and still get through on time. That's what cardinal measurements tell you. They go beyond fuzzy subjectivity to objective measurement and give a clear baseline for assessing performance. And there's another downside to point counts. They don't reflect the value being delivered. Projects need to know whether the time invested is returning the value needed. That's value to the project. It represents work to be completed at a planned cost, the planned value, and work completed at a planned cost, the earned value. Performance then is value earned versus value that should have been earned. If value is then linked to time, there's a way to measure schedule performance. And that's exactly what earned schedule does. Here's how. Get the planned value. Get the earned value. For the actual time, find the corresponding earned value. Trace it back to the matching planned value. Now find a point in the timeline when it should have been earned. Earned schedule is the time at which the value currently earned should have been earned. Let's calculate the amount of earned schedule. To do so, we need to look more closely at the numbers behind the graph. Here are the planned values and the earned values. Next, count the number of sprints in which the current earned value of 380 is greater than or equal to the planned value at the end of the sprint. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop there, because the earned value of 380 is less than the planned value of 468 in sprint 6. So far we have 5 full sprints that have been earned. Is all the planned value accounted for? If not, a fraction of the next sprint is earned. How much? Let's see. The top of the fraction is the amount that's not accounted for. That's 380 from the earned schedule at the actual time, less 365 from the planned value at the last full sprint, and that gives us a remainder of 15. It's divided by the amount of planned value in the next sprint. That sprint is one beyond the last full sprint. Here, that's sprint 6. We know that any leftover must be in that sprint. The earned value accounts for all of the planned value in the sprints up to, but not including, that sprint. We take the cumulative planned value from that sprint, which is 468. We subtract the cumulative planned value from the last full sprint, which is 365. That gives us a difference of 103. 103 is the planned value for sprint 6 alone. Next, divide the 15 by 103, and that gives us 0.146. We've earned a small portion of sprint 6, between 10 and 15%. For convenience, we'll round that to 0.1. Add that to the 5 full sprints earned thus far, and we get a total earned schedule of 5.1. How do we interpret that number? The earned schedule metric is easy to understand. If the earned schedule is greater than the actual time, performance is better than planned. That's usually interpreted as ahead of schedule. If earned schedule is less than the actual time, performance is worse than planned. That's usually interpreted as behind schedule. Otherwise, performance is on plan. It's rare that earned schedule exactly equals the actual time with no remainder. So the earned schedule metric is essentially binary, ahead or behind. It's one or the other. That measure lacks a sense of degree. In other words, it's better, but how much better? Worse, but how much worse? The degree is given by a rate. It's written as the amount of earned schedule divided by the actual time, and the actual time represents the current sprint. In the example, that's 5.1 for the earned schedule divided by 6, the current sprint, which equals roughly 0.86. The rate represents the amount of time earned for the time spent. With the rate, we can estimate the impact on duration. To do so, we divide the planned duration, that is the number of planned sprints, by the rate. In the example, that's 8 for the planned duration, that's the planned number of sprints, divided by 0.86, the rate, which is approximately 9.3. It will take about 9.3 sprints to complete the project. The estimate represents how long the project is going to take given the performance level thus far and assuming the same pace of delivery in the future. A word of caution here. This is a point estimate, and a point estimate is definite, but it's not definitive. It's a specific number, not a guarantee. There's always some fluctuation possible. Therefore, place the estimate within its likely range. The next question is, how are the metrics used? Before answering that, let me point out that the calculations are simple and quick, but to eliminate any concern about time spent on them, use automation. There's freeware and commercial software that will do the calculations for you. You now know what the software is doing behind the scenes, and so you can focus on using the metrics to improve schedule performance. As follows. We start with a baseline. We assess performance against the baseline. What sets the baseline itself? Velocity. But in the Agile canon, velocity is purely retroactive. Furthermore, using it as a look forward is frowned upon. Here, we depart from the canon. Velocity is the estimated pace of value delivery. Using velocity as the baseline, we can identify variances. But when does a variance warrant action? Thresholds give us the answer. They mark the boundaries of acceptable variance. Historically, thresholds have been set by intuition and experience. For instance, plus or minus 10%. That's a common threshold value. A better way to set them is on allowances for uncertainty and risk. A threshold breach is a call to action. An example illustrates how the metrics, baseline, and thresholds work. Start with the base data. Get the planned value. Get the earned value. Calculate the earned schedule. What does that tell us? Use a graph. Here's one repurposed from Agile, a burn-down chart. The vertical axis is for projected sprints. It starts at 0 and goes to the planned or estimated number of sprints, whichever is greater. The horizontal axis is for elapsed sprints. It starts at 1 and goes to either the planned or scheduled number of sprints, again, whichever is greater. The baseline is the planned burndown, one sprint done for each elapsed period. To get the earned schedule burndown, subtract the cumulative earned schedule at the end of each period from the planned duration. If the project is running exactly on plan, the earned schedule burn line and the planned burn line are equal. For the first few sprints, the numbers are close. The project appears to be pretty much on schedule. If the earned schedule burn line is below the planned burn line, the project is earning more schedule than planned. That's usually considered to be ahead of schedule. and we don't see that here. If the earn schedule burn line is above the planned burn line, the project is earning less schedule than planned. That is the case here. It appears that the project is falling behind schedule. The chart makes that clear. What's not so clear is whether it calls for action. After all, there is always some variance around the plan. Is this variance sufficient to call for action? Additional earn schedule metrics give us the answer. Calculate the schedule performance index for time. Calculate the estimate at complete for time. Plot the estimate. Set the baseline. Here it's set at sprint 8, which is the planned duration. Set thresholds. The uncertainty allowance for this project is 15%, so the upper threshold is 9.2 and the lower is 6.8. The current estimate breaches the upper threshold. Worse, it's part of a trend. The estimate has been rising consistently over the past few sprints. The trajectory emphasizes the impact of the threshold breach. It's no time to dawdle, it's time to act. What action? Sprint planning. Earn schedule metrics feed directly into it. Sprint planning uses the product backlog, which is a list of prioritized sized requirements, the latest increment delivered, the estimated work effort available in a sprint, past performance, and its future impact. Those come through earn schedule metrics. It produces details about deliverables, work effort, tasks, and responsibilities for the next sprint. After sprint planning come typical Agile activities, such as design, build, test, deploy, and ultimately ship. This is the work required to complete an increment. The cycle repeats until the project is done. Let's finish up by addressing some common questions and challenges for using earn schedule on Agile projects. Question: my project does not use earned value. Can I still use earn schedule? No. At least not with respect to plan value and earn value. Use of earn schedule without plan value and earn value has been discussed theoretically, and yes, you could perform earn schedule type calculations on bare points or hours, but that misses the essence of the approach. Projects are exercises in microeconomics. They operate within constraints of time and money. Decisions must carefully weigh performance on costs and timeline. That performance needs to be measured in units that are meaningful to those paying the bills. And that's why plan value and earn value are essential to using earn schedule. And that's why the answer is no, you can't do without them. Challenge: estimates are a waste of valuable time. That's a direct quote from the Agile hashtag #NoEstimates. To be clear, earn schedule for Agile needs estimates. But are they a waste? Consider, there is little, if any, systematic support for dropping estimates. The naysayers are mum about how you prioritize work, analyze the impact of change, allocate resources, or report on past performance and likely future outcomes without estimates. Enough said. Question: what if schedule performance is terrible and we need a new baseline? Rebaselining is fraught with practical and political impacts. The decision to rebaseline is not to be taken lightly. It launches naturally from sprint planning, where assessment of past performance and future impacts are integral activities. Here's a rule of thumb for triggering a new baseline: 3 or more consecutive measurements in breach of a threshold, and the trend is headed in the same bad direction. The result is, as Walt Lipke puts it, new baseline, new project. For sprint planning, that means groom the backlog, reset velocity, update target dates, store previous results, and from then on measure solely against the new baseline. Challenge. The idea of a project status is utter nonsense in Agile. When I asked why that was so, the answer I got was that anyone, quote, worth telling, end quote, would know the status from daily stand-ups. This is naive. Managers usually carry fiduciary responsibility, and nowadays they have a broad span of control. It's impractical for them to participate in every stand-up for every project. Yet they have a duty to understand how money is being spent by the project. So it's up to project teams to provide them the information they need. Earn Schedule offers a way to do that with minimal impact on other team commitments. Question: even if we have the numbers, isn't it more important to produce useful deliverables? We come full circle, back to the question at the start of the webinar. The short answer is, we can do both. We can use the numbers to improve schedule performance, a useful deliverable, without detracting from other useful deliverables. How? By combining Agile with Earn Schedule. A webinar summary describes the key steps. It starts with schedule performance. Schedule performance is efficiency of value delivery. It's like the fuel efficiency of a car. It tells you whether or not you are where you should be on the project timeline. It's measured in objective units. They're meaningful to the people who are paying the bills and making decisions in the face of time and cost constraints. Earn Schedule captures this by systematically mapping time to value, specifically plan value and earn value. Earn Schedule is the time at which the value currently earned should have been earned. Earn Schedule calculations are easy and quick. But if you need more speed, you can always automate. Results are easy to interpret. The amount of Earn Schedule is either better or worse than plan. How much better or worse? The rate tells you. More important, it identifies the impact on future duration. Remember, for any estimate, place it within a range of likely outcomes. Next, use the measurements to improve schedule performance. Assess performance against the baseline. The baseline is the pace of value delivery. The Earn Schedule burndown chart translates pace into performance. If the Earn Schedule burn line is above the planned burn line, the pace is slower than planned. Performance lags the schedule. If the Earn Schedule burn line is below the planned burn line, the pace is faster than planned. Performance outpaces the schedule. Either way, the people paying the bills get a quick, accurate picture of current schedule performance. Set thresholds. preferably using allowances for uncertainty and risk. The thresholds marked the boundaries of acceptable variance. A picture accelerates analysis. Here, estimated duration tops the baseline. That's bad. It breaches the upper threshold. That's worse. And it's part of a trend headed in the wrong direction. That's the worst. With pictures, decisions to improve performance come fast. But where do they happen? During sprint planning, assess the measurements against the baseline and the thresholds. The assessment helps to set the objectives of the next sprint. If performance is within acceptable limits of variance, the sprint is a go, and you identify deliverables, work effort, and responsibilities for it. If performance is poor, find out the root cause and adjust the sprint accordingly. Finally, if there's a threshold breach, more dramatic action is called for. It might trigger a no-go decision for the sprint or even a rebaseline for the project. In the race against time, you need to act fast and think fast. Only by doing so will you achieve project success.